So I don't know if you got into this last time, but why are you an atheist? What is your
Oh,
what is your reasoning for that? Did we talk about that?
why? What are the rational reasons I would give? Are that yeah, I just don't see any force in the arguments for God's existence. I don't think that disembodied minds are things that can exist. I
Hmm.
don't think that there are souls or a spiritual world. And since lacking all these things, it seems to me really um, a heavy burden for the theist to show me that souls exist, gods exist, disembodied minds exist, spirits exist, all those things. I don't think a supernatural world exists
Why don't you think that?
because I don't know that there's no reason to.
Okay,
It's just,
okay.
yeah,
Well,
it's the
why
same.
why don't you why don't like what are your positive arguments in favor of those things not
Oh,
existing?
that things are innocent of existing until we have evidence for them.
I see. So are you a materialist?
I'm a naturalist.
What does that mean? I
It's just
have an idea, but
materialist wasn't like 19th century term. Everything is matter, but things are matter and energy now, I guess. And there are other things. So
I see.
we understand light and a lot of things to be composed of these quantum fields, right? And
I see.
that's what our sensible world is
Okay.
this quantum world.
So
And
you
right,
believe
so
in you believe
nature.
in the you believe in the quantum world and um you believe in like quantum physics and
I think
ideas that are still conceptual that have not been observed. You believe in those things, in those realities?
I believe that quantum mechanics is our best available empirical um, theory for that explains observed reality.
I see. Is and you're gonna have to help me with this. Are the quantum mechanics that are postulated, the strange
Quantum,
behaviors of particles going on in this, like the quantum
yeah,
level of things,
they're
are those
observed
are those observed? Are those observed? And how are they observed?
um, through interactions with other things, like in a cloud chamber, right? We see particles that leave trails in cloud chambers,
I see. Okay.
right?
Okay. So that's really cool. So you can observe the traces of
we,
like
we, we
like
don't
what
have direct observation. It's sort of indirect. We can infer, right? So we see little bubbles in a cloud chamber is it's actually cold, and the passage of a particle leaves a trail of little bubbles,
oh,
and we
that's interesting.
infer the existence of things like um, protons and electrons from that because it conforms with our best theoretical um, ideas about them.
Okay, I see. So it's sort of an inference to the best explanation. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's all of science. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So um now again, I'm not a scientist, but my understanding is that in order to test a scientific theory or a hypothesis, there's a certain process. I've done a video about this. I've done a few videos about it, but there are certain steps that we would take. Uh, Asking a question, coming up with a hypothesis. We would run tests. I mean,
You test it. You
you
figure
just
out.
ably
Yeah,
described
yeah.
the cloud chamber and that sort of thing. Um, what? Correct me if I'm wrong, but are there not certain assumptions or presuppositions that go into the scientific endeavor, such as there are going to be uniform and consistent laws of physics and chemistry? These particles are going to behave in a, if not predictable, at least observable way, and in a consistent way. The laws of strong force and weak force of the atom, these things are at least going to be consistent enough that we can observe them in a repeated manner. These are all assumptions that we have to bring to the scientific endeavor. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
we've not observed them to deviate. So
Right.
we've never observed electromagnetism to behave differently than our current theories about it, right? And
Right.
if you do that, you see that, you've got a Nobel Prize waiting for you because you've found something that nobody else found.
Okay, so you're assuming that these particles are going to behave in a uniform way. Obviously, you don't have any direct access to the future. That's why we do experiments, because we don't know what's going to happen. So we test these things. But even deeper than that, Brenda, there's a presupposition that there's a structure to the universe such that, well, we call it uniformity in nature. You familiar with that concept, uniformity in nature?
Yes, I know about this.
Okay, and I don't know where you're coming from, so that's good. So uniformity in nature is a pre-scientific assumption or belief. People don't always like the term belief, but that's what it is. It's an assumption or a pre-commitment that assumes that the future will be like the past, and that unobserved cases will be similar to observed cases. Without that, we couldn't do experiments in cloud chambers, and we couldn't do any experiments at all. Given your atheism, why do you believe that the universe behaves in the future in a uniform way to the way it's behaved in the past?
Oh, because we've never seen it do otherwise.
In the past?
No, we've never. So we believe in the presuppositions that we made because they have survived the test of time. They've survived countless tests. So people believe in relativity because it has survived test after test by scientists who have many of whom want to prove it wrong.
Yeah,
that's how you make a name for yourself in science.
Yeah,
right.
I
So
get that, but
it survives constant testing.
okay, so what you just did was you described a particular scientific theory, the theory of relativity, and you said that that's been observed. But I want to draw attention to what you just did, Brenda. What you said was that in the past, the theory of relativity, and you're using past tense language, has, have, these are past tense signifiers or verbs. You've said that in the past, this is how things have behaved. And based on that, we make assumptions about the future. Yes. Right. Yes. Right. So what I want, hold on a second. What I want to show you is this. You are begging hold on a second. There's a logical fallacy at play here, and I want to try to explain to you what it is. I'm going to do it as clearly as I possibly can. I asked you what your basis is, given your atheism, for believing the future will be like the past. Since you don't have any direct access to the future, and you don't believe God is supervening over the world, what you told me is something about the past. And you said, based on what happened in the past, now we know what the future will be like. My whole question is, why do you assume the future will be like the past? I believe that as a Christian because I believe the universe is upheld by Christ's powerful word and Jesus is God. So I've got a great reason for believing that. That's why I love science. My question is, for you as an atheist, why do you think that the future will be like the past? Why do you, given your atheism, believe in uniformity in nature? Do you have a reason?
Yeah, because it's always turned out to be true
in the past. But I'm asking about your belief as to why the future will be like the past. What is that principle?
Because nothing has falsified it.
In the past, Brenda.
No, in the present, there's nothing has falsified it. Yeah. So we're justified in asserting it, right? Because there is no.
No, that's not right.
There's no defeater.
There hasn't been in the past. My question is, how do you, given your atheism, assume that the future will be like the past? What is it? What knowledge do you have that has given you right? And why? What is your? Because hear me when I say, imagine a counterfactual here. Imagine that someone were to say, you know what? There's no God supervening in this world. There is no reason whatsoever to assume that anything that worked in the past will work in the future, because there's no God holding things together, keeping things consistent. Jesus Christ isn't upholding the world by his powerful word. So because of that, we actually have no reason to assume anything about the future whatsoever, since we don't have any direct access to it. And then somebody else goes, oh, no, we do, because the future will be like the past. Wouldn't you want to know why they believe the future will be like the past? Like, why, given atheism in an unsupervised universe, why will the future be like the past? And how is that how is that assumption not completely arbitrary? Or begging the question, or logically fallacious because it begs the question. It's either arbitrary, which is not good,
It doesn't
or it's
beg the
fallacious.
question. It doesn't
Okay,
beg the
how does it
question
not beg the question?
because it's falsifiable.
Okay,
Scientific theories or propositions are
this is not a scientific
falsifiable.
theory. Remember, this is a pre-scientific assumption. You yourself called it a presupposition. This is
Right.
a pre-scientific assumption.
Right.
You actually can't verify anything unless you already assume that it's true.
I'm not making a modus ponens argument. I'm making a modus tollens. Right?
That's fine, but you are assuming things about
that's falsification, right? If it rains, the street will be wet.
Yeah.
The street is not wet, so it did not rain. That's science.
Yeah, I understand that. Now you're making it that, well, you're appealing to logic. You're appealing to a logical argument. My question is, given your atheism, what is it in your metaphysics that has you believing that the universe behaves in a consistent way and will continue to do so in the future? What is supervening the universe? What is holding it consistent?
We don't know that.
But you have to assume that. You said yourself, you have to presuppose it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that's an arbitrary. So it's an arbitrary assumption?
No, it's not arbitrary.
It's ungrounded by science. It literally can't be grounded by science because it's pre-scientific.
It's an assumption, right? That
So
has, yeah.
But it's not grounded by science.
What does that mean?
What I mean is that you can't do a scientific experiment to establish the principle that you need to be there in order for science to work. It has to be pre-scientific. It has to be.
Principle is falsification. What's wrong with that?
False. And I know you understand this, but this is the argument. Falsification assumes that there are scientific experiments that we can do in order to falsify a question or a claim or a hypothesis. In order for that process to work, we have to already start the process with the pre-commitment to uniformity in nature. As a Christian, I believe nature is uniform because Jesus Christ is upholding the world by his powerful word. You don't believe that. So you need to substitute that belief with something else that gives you a non-arbitrary grounding for your belief in the uniformity in nature. Do you have one?
Successive inquiries, scientific inquiry, can lower or raise the probability a hypothesis is true or false, right?
And can you
that's called Bayesian
for scientific theories and hypotheses? Absolutely, yes. But that is because we already have a pre-commitment to uniformity in nature, which is pre-scientific, is not verifiable by science.
So the succession, the fact that we have tested, say, the uniformity of nature countless times
in the past.
Yes.
Not in the future. I'm asking for your belief about the future to be grounded in something in your worldview. Your atheism, I'm going to cut to the chase here, because we're almost out of time, I'm sure. Your atheism undercuts your very belief in this pre-commitment. Because you don't have God, I mean, you do have God, but you deny God holding the universe together. So I'm not, obviously, I want to make this very clear. I'm not denying uniformity in nature. I believe in it. I'm a Christian. That's why I believe in uniformity in nature. You have got to ground something that you can't ground. You've got to ground uniformity in nature in a godless void.
Why do I have to ground it? It's just
because if not, then it's arbitrary. Are you saying that it's arbitrary? If it's not grounded, it's arbitrary.
Not arbitrary. It's based on repeated novel predictions.
So
right. So that's not nothing.
No, that's not right. It's not.
Yes,
it's not verifiable.
It's a law of nature. Laws of nature are based on observations. And
that's right. That's why it's not a law of nature. Remember, it's a pre-scientific pre-commitment. No, it's a presupposition. Pre-scientific means it's not verifiable by science.
No, I just told you that it's laws of nature are based on repeated observations.
Let's try this, Brenda. Maybe this will reveal it to you.
So
let's try this.
F equals ma is a law of nature.
Okay,
right?
let's
It's based on observations.
yeah. F equals ma is observable and testable through scientific endeavors in a way
No,
that the
no, you can't.
yes it is in a
No,
way
you can't.
in a
You
way
can't
you
test.
can't test F equals ma. You
You
can
can.
actually
You
you
can't
can.
test that it's true.
Okay, that's what I just said. So that is testable
Right.
and falsifiable in a way that a pre-commitment to the uniformity in nature is not testable. And I want to illustrate the point. Let's step into your worldview for the sake of argument. Let's pretend we're both atheists. Only you affirm uniformity in nature, and I deny it because I say I think the future is totally random and arbitrary since nothing is holding it together. What are you going to do to convince me, your fellow hypothetical atheist, that uniformity in nature
Right.
is something I should believe in? And now
And you're
remember,
saying it's
you
not.
can't appeal to past
Right.
futures
I'm not
because
going
that
to.
begs the question. That's fallacious.
Yeah.
So how are you going
You're
to
saying
convince me?
it's random, right?
As
What
a
is the
hypothetical atheist,
probability?
yes.
What is the probability of a proposition being true?
As an
if it's
atheist, as a
random?
hypothetical
What
atheist,
is the
I don't believe in
probability?
probability.
What is randomness? What is the probability of a random proposition?
As a hypothetical atheist,
What is the probability
I
of a
don't believe
random
in
proposition? It's zero,
as a
isn't it?
as an
Because
atheist,
by
I don't
definition,
believe in
dude,
probability.
dude,
It's not a meaningful concept.
by definition, a random occurrence has a probability of zero. The uniformity of nature has a probability greater than zero.
I want you
Therefore,
to hear
I
this.
win.
I want you to hear this. There's no way to assign a probability to a scientific pre-commitment because you'd have to test that probability using an experiment that is already appealing to that pre-scientific commitment. So as a hypothetical atheist, you're not just going to just get to assert your authority. You're going to have to actually defend your view something in your metaphysics. So okay, so your metaphysics, your beliefs are based in non-zero probability. Why?
Your belief, you claim that the universe could be random, right? According to probability, by definition, random outcome is zero. This has a probability of zero.
Okay.
By definition.
So by definition, so you're making an appeal to a definition of probability in an atheistic universe, and I, as a fellow atheist, am supposed to accept this definition when I believe, hold on. This is really important, Brenda. Brenda, hold on a second. We're actually going somewhere. I think we might be making some progress. As a fellow hypothetical atheist, what I'm saying is, no, you don't understand. You can't assign probability values of any amount, negative, positive, or anything else, in a universe that is completely ungoverned. It's totally non-supervened. What that means is you can't talk to me about probability. You can't talk to me about definitions because those definitions are changing all the time. And there is no uniformity in nature to keep those definitions in place over time. You're going to have to convince me.
Asserting that.
That's correct. I'm just asserting it as a hypothetical atheist, and you have no defense against it. Your own worldview can't defend against itself.
Yes, I do. Right?
No, wrong. No, not right.
What observation or experiment would show me that the probability of the hypothesis that nature is uniform, right, should be lower?
Well, you're starting with your conclusion and asking me to disprove it. I'm asking.
It's just a question. I wasn't making an argument. It was a question.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have to continue this next time, Brenda.
Yeah, we are 3 minutes
okay.
over.
We got to run away now. Okay.
Yeah, we've got to run away. Your arguments were too good.
Yeah. So the point is that there's no reason to lower the probability of uniformity of nature being true.
And we just assert it and we say that it's non-zero probability, and that's the answer.
The other thing is
that's your argument.
Is that for science does not give you certainty. You can't prove theories of science true, right?
We're talking pre-scientific commitments.
Can you prove? You can't.
You can't even, Brenda. You can't even refute a fellow atheist who just believes in a random universe, who believes in an ungoverned, unpredictable universe. You can't just say, oh, by definition, this is the way. Definitions assume continuity over time. That's the very principle that you need to authenticate. That's the very principle you need to validate and ground. You haven't done that. You're just assuming it. You're asserting it by fiat. And And a
No.
fellow atheist is not going to accept that. I, as a Christian, obviously don't accept it, but you can't just assert something by fiat and expect people to take that seriously. It's
not
arbitrary.
asserted by fiat.
Well, it's you. That's what you did.
Based
Fiat,
on repeated observations and by way of
which
experience.
presuppose the very thing you need to
No, they don't.
prove. Okay. Well, it was great talking with you as always, Brenda. Come back again another time. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel. Here's a video that you should watch next. And if you really want to take your learning further, you need to know about the Hammer and Anvil Society, our premier discipleship community for Christian men. Learn more at thethink.institute/society. Until next time, I hope it made you think.